I welcome you all today on 27th May 2021. The time is around 5 p.m. and I am here to deliver a lecture on creativity skill, creative thinking skill. This is what is mentioned in your syllabi, creative thinking skill. We will discuss the definition of creative thinking skill and then we will move on to the important features of this particular skill. But like I told you in the beginning, before we started this formal lecture, the point of discussing such lectures, such topics is to imbibe in you the concept of human values, the ethics, the moral values, the good in you. But I'm afraid that these lectures may remain, confined to this online platform, to YouTube or to Facebook, to whatever mode I use while I deliver this lecture, or later on I upload these lectures on different platforms. I'm afraid that it will remain confined to these platforms only because uh, I'm not very you cannot accuse me of being pessimistic, but then I'm not very optimistic as well, in the sense that I don't find many students, uh, I find them wanting as far as these skills in day-to-day life are concerned. So I urge you people, I request you people, I advise you people as your teacher, as your mentor, that whatever you study in your books or whatever discussion we do here in our lectures, it should get reflected in your day-to-day life. It should get reflected in your personality. There should be some change in your attitude and behavior. Only then these lectures or what you truly call life skills. Understand? Otherwise, there is no fun of discussing these topics, and it's a kind of wastage when we people around 30 to 40 people are online and we are discussing these topics. So it's going to be a futile exercise, and I don't believe in wasting time. Understand? So let us cut it short and move on to our topic. I will share the screen with you so that you can read what I am going to teach you today. Here it is. The screen is in front of you. The topic is creative thinking, or the creative thinking skill, right? I have used some graphics, some pictures to make the lecture more interesting and to stir your minds so that you people can ask questions towards the end of the lecture. What is it? Who it's for? Who are you communicating with? How it works? How to assess what you need? Why? How? What about creative thinking? This is what we are going to discuss, and this is what you should be able to answer towards the end of the lecture, right? So let us begin. Here is the first slide for you. Like I always try to go to the root of the word. So creative has been derived from a Latin word creare, which means to create. This is the first line on the slide, and you can read it and you can listen to me as well. You can watch me. It has been derived from a Latin word creare, which means to create. As far as the other word thinking is concerned, thinking, the root word is actually think, right? The word think has been derived from the Old English. And I have written two words which are there in front of you. One is like P-O-H-T, another is G-E-P-O-H-T. Now it's up to you how you pronounce it, because I'm not sure whether I can pronounce these two words correctly or not. Pahot or Gepahot, or whatever way you want to pronounce, but the words are in front of you from Old English. Think is derived from these two words, which means to conceive, to consider, right? So these two words, creative is derived from creare, which is a Latin term which means to create, and think is derived from the Old English, which means to conceive or to consider. Now, what is the definition of the term creative thinking? before I move on with the lecture and before I tell you the definition of the creative thinking, let me confess it in front of my students that we teachers are offenders, in the sense that we are one of the parties who are responsible for killing creativity in the students. I confess this in front of you, because the way we we frame your courses, we frame your syllabi, and the way we teach both. I am not sure about online, because I am not very good as far as online teaching is concerned. I may be a very bad teacher, I cannot judge myself. But as teachers, most of us fail to deliver and to generate creativity among our students. So that is why I said that we are offenders. We are the criminals in true sense, because we are paid for not teaching only, right? We are paid for the overall development of the child. Teaching is not just, just vomiting out the lecture in front of you. That is not what teaching is. Unfortunately, majority of the teachers do that. They vomit out the lecture in front of their students, and they don't care about the overall development, overall personality development of the student. That is why I said this creative thinking is one of the skills which should be, you know uh, polished in the very beginning of a student's career. In a college, I can help you to be creative, but this has to be done at school level. This has to be done in the primary classes, where you people learn to be creative. Once you start cramming the answers, once you start taking the notes from the reference books and just mug them up and um, sorry for my words, and spit them on the answer sheets in your examination just to get good marks. So this is not how education truly is. This is not what education actually is, right? So I hope that today, after this lecture, you people will try to be creative, and you will try to think out of the box. Right now, coming back to the definition part, the definition of creative thinking is looking at something in a new or unusual way, you know thinking differently. That is what creativity is, thinking differently. To look at something in a new way, in an unusual way, in a way which is not a tradition, which is not a convention, which is not a norm. To devise new ways to solve problems. And if you look at things in a different way, in a novel way, in a very unusual way, you will devise new ways of solving problems. And how? In a more productive manner. And the problems will be solved in a more productive manner. This lockdown is an example. See, once the colleges got off because of this pandemic, the teachers were supposed to go for online teaching. Now, how many teachers are doing that? Do we really, do we really come up to the expectations of our students? Are we really creative enough to face our students in live lectures? Right? So this is an example of creativity. A teacher has to be creative now, because we are shifting from offline to online mode, and maybe in future or even today, now blended learning concept is introduced in our colleges and universities, where blended learning is to be done now, a mixture of offline, online, this way, that way. This is how teaching will go on now. So another way of defining this creative thinking is the generation of ideas that are new, as well as useful, productive, and appropriate. You know, most of the people walk on a road, most of the students follow a track, right? Which is created by somebody, and we just follow that track. That is usual, that is tradition, that is convention. But do we really have something in ourselves where we deviate from the track and try to see something new, try to experiment with something which is different from others? That is what creative thinking is. That is what creativity is, right? Creativity occupies an important place in educational psychology, because it is actually, this topic is actually about education. This is actually about educational psychology, how we deal with the students, how we treat the minds of the students, and how we make those minds creative, right? It is sometimes called lateral thinking as well, sometimes, or some people call it lateral thinking as well. I will move on to the next slide. I will now give you 2 or 3 definitions from different. One is from the Australian Council for Educational Research Limited. Other 2 definitions are by 2 famous writers. So the Australian Council for Educational Research Limited, which is in short called ACER, they define creativity or creative thinking as the capacity to generate many different kinds of ideas, manipulate ideas in unusual ways, and make unconventional connections in order to outline novel possibilities. Novel means new. Unconventional means different from the conventional, opposite to conventional, opposite to what is ordinary, that have the potential to elegantly meet the given, that have the potential to elegantly meet a given purpose, right? Another definition is creativity is the ability to make or do something new that is also useful or valued by others. Gardner in 1993 gave this definition, that creativity is the ability to make or do something new, something which is not done by others, right? And which is useful and valued by other people as well. Another writer, Mednick, says that creative thinking consists of forming new combinations of associative elements, right? So these 3 definitions, I have just quoted them for the sake of, you can say, for the sake of your examination, or for the sake of your learning creative thinking in a better way. Now coming to the representation, I have tried to give you a kind of picture in front of you where you can understand it in a better way. One is on this side where I am moving my cursor. Creative thinking depends on, or critical thinking, which is another topic, it depends on analyzing, reasoning, evaluating, problem solving, and decision making. I will keep it aside. I just wanted a comparison between critical thinking and creative thinking, but I could not complete. First I was thinking of completing these 2 topics in a single lecture, creative thinking and critical thinking, but then somehow I found that it will be too long. Now I will just concentrate on creative thinking, which is in blue color, and creative thinking is written in red. Creative thinking depends on being imaginative, on being optimistic, on being curious, and on being dynamic. We will discuss these 4 points in the next slide. Imaginative, a person has to be imaginative if he wants to be creative. Optimistic, I hope you understand the word optimistic. Positive thinking, it means positive thinking. Curious, curious to learn new things, curious to go for research, to search and research. And dynamic, ready to change, ready to adjust to the time, to the situation, to the place, to the circumstances. This is what dynamic is. I will move on to the next slide and come to the features of creative thinking. First of all, when you want to be creative, a person should know the problem first. I will, concentrate on students to discuss these features. A student has to know the problem first, what the problem is. I hope you remember when I joined the Government Degree College Chhatru, within 2-3 days, I just talked to you students, because you are 6th semester student. I talked to you about the infrastructural issues, and I talked to you about that water which had logged in the courtyard of our GDC Chhatru. I hope you remember that. Ghazi Bilal is here, Imran is here, Afrina is here. You also remember that.
Yes, sir.
You said that no, we do not have a proper building, we have the infrastructural issues and all. And I just remember that I asked you about that water which was logged in the courtyard, in the near your class, in front of your class. And I said, this water logging has nothing to do with your infrastructure. It can be done, right? And the next day I observed that that water was not there, right? So the point is that first you have to know the problem. I made you realize that there is the problem of waterlogging in front of you. So a student has to know the problem first. Only then he will go for the answers. Okay. Now, once you know the problem, then you have to think out of the box. You have to think differently to solve a problem which is not usually solved by the common people. Or a new and different perspective should be there. Right? Whenever you want to solve a problem, you have to think out of the box. You have to think with a different perspective. You have to look at the things from a different angle, from an angle which is not usually taken into consideration by normal people, by ordinary people. Right? I remember, I don't know who he was. It's usually attributed to Hitler, but I don't know. I remember, maybe it is an anecdote. It's not, you know, the part of the history and reality. But I remember, just to make you inspire, just to inspire you, I was very young. A teacher told me, I don't know whether he was talking about Hitler or somebody else. He said that once Hitler went to his mother when he was very young, just 7 or 8 years old, and he said that I want to jump from this building. And it was a huge building. What will we usually do when my kid, who is 7 years old, he will ask me, Dad, I want to jump from this building? I will say, no, you will die, you will get injured. This is what normal people do. But that mother, she arranged a big mattress, and then she used that mattress and asked her little son to jump from that, that building, and he fell down on that mattress, and he didn't get injured. So you have to think out of the box. Usually we won't think of getting a mattress and asking a kid to jump. I said that it can be an anecdote, but this is just an example to make you people think that you have to think differently. You have to think out of the box. Now, while thinking, you should be willing to change your thinking, and you should be flexible in thinking. Flexibility should be there in your thinking, right? Like I mentioned in the earlier slide, that you have to be dynamic. It's not that you will stick to one particular point and you are not ready to change. No, you should be willing to change. You should be willing to learn and relearn, like I always say, and unlearn, right? So that willingness to change is very important in creativity. Being flexible is very important in life. You have to adjust yourselves to the changing environment, right? Dinosaurs could not be flexible. They could not be dynamic. That is why they died. Human beings proved to be flexible. That is why we are ruling this earth for so many years now, right? And it is said, there's a proverb, जबान चूंकि नरम होती है, उम्र भर साथ निभाती है. कहते हैं ना, जबान चूंकि नरम होती है, जहां हिलाओ वहां फ्लेक्सिबल है, ये कहीं भी हिल सकती है मुंह में. तो जबान चूंकि नरम होती है, उम्र भर साथ निभाती है. दांत चूंकि सख्त होते हैं, फ्लेक्सिबल नहीं होते हैं, एक एक करके गिर जाते हैं. So a human being should be like a tongue, flexible and dynamic, right? Coming up with various solutions. And when you are flexible, when you think out of the box, when you know the problem, then you should come up with various solutions. You should come up with various options. It's not like that a problem has only one answer. No. Different persons can think over it, and a person can think differently, and then you can come up with several solutions. Avoid simple solutions. Avoid simplistic solutions, rather. Avoid those solutions which are commonplace, which are very ordinary, which anybody can look for. There is a problem, and anybody can solve that problem. But if that problem is to be solved in a more fruitful manner, in a more appropriate and apt manner, you have to avoid that simplistic answer and solution. You have to think differently, so that you will get a better solution of that problem. Like you have an example from Ladakh area where there was the problem of water, and that person who created those artificial glaciers. I hope you remember. I don't the name of that mind, the name of that person.
Sonamarg.
I'm
It's
not sure.
Sonamarg.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, he created that. Do you remember? Am I right? So he
Yes, sir.
created that those glaciers. That is what creativity is. Or Three Idiots movie is very interesting in this regard.
Yes, sir.
How Amir Khan proves to be creative all the time,
Yes, sir.
and how that other person, that comic figure, I don't remember his name, जो दूसरा होता है उसमें,
Farhan,
नहीं, वो जो दूसरा जो लास्ट पे जाता है उसको बोलने आमिर खान को लद्दाख में कि देखो मैं कितना बड़ा राइटर बन गया, बिजनेसमैन हूँ, वो वाला. तो पॉइंट इज you have to be like that. Actually, Three Idiots is a very good movie in the sense that it actually, it puts questions in front of us about how we teachers kill creativity among our students. That is why in the beginning of the lecture, I told you that we teachers are actually offenders and criminals. No teacher will say this, because I am myself a teacher and a proud teacher as well. I am a teacher by choice. I always say this. But then I confess that we kill creativity. Not all of us, obviously. I cannot generalize it. But then most of us do that. And sometimes we do it consciously and sometimes unconsciously. And sometimes we too are helpless. Anyway, coming to the features. Admit when you are wrong. So this is what I was just talking to you people, that you have to admit when you feel that you are at fault. When you feel that you have committed a mistake, then you should admit that. 80% of the people, they just waste their energy in defending their stand. 80% of the people do that. Just 20% or 25% people are there who actually feel that, yes, I am wrong, I am sorry. Sorry is such a word which actually, which can solve a lot of problems in today's world, both in personal and professional life. So admit it when you are wrong and tame your ego. Keep your ego aside. This is one and the same thing. Why don't we accept that we are wrong? Because our ego comes in between. I have the ego of, I have done PhD in English and I cannot be wrong at all. I am the one who knows all English in the world. If I have this kind of attitude, I won't admit that I am wrong. I cannot keep my ego aside. But if I am flexible and I understand that somebody sometimes may be a student from sixth semester or maybe a student from even class 10th, he can teach me something. If I have this kind of approach, I can be creative, right? And then originality is very important. You have to be original. Whenever you come with a creative idea, don't plagiarize. I hope you understand. To steal somebody else's thought, to steal somebody else's content. Like I am putting this lecture on YouTube after a few days, and somebody may just copy my slides and use his voice and create another YouTube channel and get famous. And he will use my slides. That is what plagiarism is, right? So there is no need to plagiarize. There is no need to steal. There is no need to, yes, you can imitate. You can use my slides. You can use my lecture. You can use what I tell you, because this is what students are expected to do. They are expected to learn from their teachers. But you have to be original. You can quote me. You can quote your teachers. You can quote different reference material, different sources. But there should be originality in what you do. Only then you can be creative. Curiosity asks questions. Curiosity or oblique asks questions. This is, the most important point which I think as a teacher is missing in most of my students, particularly in government degree college Chatru. The students from Doda who are here in the class or who are watching me, there are around 5 students who are online. I can see Anju, Monica, Priya, Radha, Komal. These students very talkative, they used to ask me questions when I was in GDC Doda. Maybe they were comfortable with me because I was there for a long time, and they people were there for around 3 years now. And at Chatru, I am there for just 2 months or maybe 1.5 months, and out of that 1.5 month, we are having these online classes for around 20-25 days now. Maybe that is one of the reasons, but I always urge you people to ask questions. Sometimes Jamsheed sir may not be able to answer your questions correctly, because after all, I am also a human being. I will say that I do not know the answer of this particular question, and I will read again and come up with the answer. It's not about questioning and answering just to check somebody's knowledge. No, it's more of a discussion, right? So you should be curious. You should be curious to learn, and then you will ask questions, right? Reading and research is important for creativity. Another feature, reading and research. Most of the students ask me, sir, you are so fluent when you speak in English. How can we learn speaking in English? The day before, one of my friends who is a senior KS officer, he was actually my senior, but he's a good friend of mine. He says, sir, how can I speak like you? Or how can I speak fluently? Not like me, I'm not a very good speaker. But then he said, I want to speak confidently. How can I do that? I said, you can learn speaking by speaking. There is no other way. You can learn speaking by speaking. So if you want to be good speakers, you have to speak. You will be wrong at times, but then with the passage of time, you will, improve. Likewise, reading is very important. You may say that somebody who just, you call somebody on the stage. There are some students whom we call on the stage and ask them to speak, and they go on, with the flow, and they speak very well. What is the reason? Or some teachers, they speak very well, and sometimes most of the teachers and most of the students, they just hesitate. They are not able to speak without preparation. The reason is they don't read. If you read, you can speak. If you read, you will get content in your mind, and then you can speak anytime in front of anyone without any hesitation, without any obstacle. Research is not only doing PhD or MPhil or doctorate or postdoctorate, what you call. Research is, it can be done while working in the fields as well. Whatever you see, just research, look for the answers, just try to see why it is so. Curiosity and research are they are interrelated. Why it is so? So if you are able to look for the answers, and a time will come when you will get those answers, right? And then the last feature, these are actually two features, and I have combined them together: imaginative and optimistic. I will discuss optimistic first. Optimistic is positive thinking. You have to be positive. You cannot be pessimistic. You cannot be a negative thinker, because once you go into negativity, you cannot be successful. All the time you will get depressed, you will have stress, and you will feel that, no, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. Now lockdown is going on, I cannot do anything, I cannot go out. No, don't think like that. Be optimistic. Just don't overthink. Don't overthink. Let it come. I mean, what is to happen, what is planned by destiny, that has to happen at any cost. What is done cannot be undone. What has to happen will happen at any cost. So don't overthink, and don't get stressed, and don't be pessimistic about it. Then imagination is very important. Unfortunately, most of the courses, most of the degrees, most of the teachers kill imagination. But I hope that when you people will grow up, and I hope that you students are imaginative enough, you should imagine. Imagination is very important. That is why I have organized an essay writing competition for GDC Chatru students only, for the students of Chatru only. But unfortunately, I have got just one response till now. That essay on ecosystem and role of youth. I shared that concept note with you in the WhatsApp groups. I want the point is not of getting certificates or getting good awards. No, the point is to make you people imaginative, so that you imagine and you write, you create. So that is my way of helping you to become imaginative and creativity. So this is all about creative thinking, its definitions, its features. I have written a quote from Pablo Picasso. This is very good. Just read it. Every child is an artist. Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up. As a child, we all are artists, and a child is all the time playing with things, creating, recreating. मेरे बच्चे होते हैं, कभी मकान बनाते हैं, कभी कुछ बनाते हैं, कभी कुछ. That is what creativity is. That is what imagination is. But the point is, the problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up. Whether we remain artists when we grow up as adults, that is the point. That is the problem. Right? My younger one is all the time playing with my shoes. All the time he collects all the shoes and chappals, slippers outside our house, and he just plays with them, and he talks to them. He talks to those shoes, those slippers, and other things. That is what creativity is. That is what imagination is. But once we grow up, that gets killed because of the different reasons which we discussed in detail today. So this is a quote. This is very important. Thank you. I hope it was a fruitful lecture, and I hope that if you missed anything, you can ask me, and you can later on, after 2 or 3 days, I will upload this video on YouTube as well. You can watch from my channel, Dr. Jamsheed's repository. Okay.
Thank you.